Welcome again. This is the third program in a row from this year BINA 2020 program, which we are doing together with the Future Architecture Platform. For those who are not familiar with the Future Architecture Platform, Future Architecture Platform is a pan-European initiative that is organized in 26 different institutions and organizations dealing in the field of architecture from 22 countries around Europe. The platform started 4 years ago, and the Belgrade International Week of Architecture is the member of the platform from the very beginning. We started in 2017 and 16, sorry, and the first thing that we did within the platform was the exhibition Belgrade Energy Spot. Then next year we did one conference that was dealing about with the suburbs of Belgrade and the future of the development of Belgrade suburbs. And then we did one workshop in one of the outskirts of Belgrade. We did a reconstruction with the participants from the open call of 5 Belgrade bus stops. So this year we decided to organize urban talks about urban issues and the future of cities. Unfortunately, due to this pandemic that happened to all of us, we had to postpone BINA of this year, but we are continuing with these urban talks in this format of Zoom conferences. So first 2 were organized in May and then in late August. The first was dealing with the problem of housing, the problem of contemporary housing. And the second one was organized together with the Kalous Gulbenkian Foundation from Lisbon, which is also the member of the Future Architecture Platform. And we were talking about the future of urban zoo gardens in the cities, which was, I think, quite interesting, as well as the one that was dealing with housing, especially in the period just after the lockdown in Belgrade. So this time we are doing the talk about the children's spaces, and the co-host with me tonight is Tatiana Vukosavljevic, who will present this topic to you, and then very soon we'll start with the presentations of our invited participants. What I also have to say is that Isa Rutkovska, who is the first participant, as well as architects from ADA, they participated in the open call of the Future Architecture Platform, and this open call was very successful, we think, because more than 400 people or groups or offices participated in this open call. So we think that that was quite a big opportunity for all of us and also for participants to share their knowledge, to share their visions about the future of architecture. And now we are presenting some of them. So Tanya, the floor is yours now, so please continue.
So when BINA team started organizing today's event earlier this year, it was imagined as one-day event in Museum of Science and Technology in Belgrade. A workshop with children about co-design where we, moderators and adults, participants or speakers, would be able to learn and listen to the children and their true needs. What spaces will encourage learning, what plans will promote play, how can we create the right level of social interaction between ages. When designed to enable meaningful play and exploration, the built environment can improve skills development and enhance pro-social behaviors. However, here we are working in different format, online format. We are discussing the topic with our guest speakers, but as well with all of you in the audience. As Danica already mentioned, my name is Tatiana, and I was collaborating with BINA for a while and participated in several participatory projects that involved transformation of open public space. Probably the most interesting thing during these projects was that children surprisingly were the most interested user group of the space. And it turned out that it was the motivation for the adults, parents, to join the process. For me as an architect, it was interesting to work in a different area. The position and role of architect are changing. We become increasingly involved in social design processes in different stages. Today, we are talking with Iza Rutkovska, Stefan Radošević and Luka Višnjić from ADA Otvoreno, Milena Vidosavljević, Museum of Science and Technology, and Kit Hub about their work and experience in such processes and projects. Iza Rutkovska is a designer, educator, and cultural manager from Poland. And as Danica already mentioned, she is Future Architecture Open Call 2020 participant. As she told me, she works with children, not for children. So let's meet Iza. Iza, screen is yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. I would prefer much more to be there in Belgrade, but okay, we have what we have now. And I think the most important of what Tanya said a moment ago is that I always tell to everybody that I work with kids, not for kids, and I think this is the most important. I will now share the screen with you to show you my presentation. Okay, can you hear? Can you see the presentation now? Can you show with your heads? Okay, perfect. So first I will introduce myself. I think it's important. I define myself as an artist, not architect. However, I think this is the strength of my work as well, as I always start my projects by integration people and by working with people not speaking about architecture at all, but using performative methods to gather them. So I just wanted to show you a few of my previous works that were actually always according to the big child in adult people that we are. All my projects that I was doing by myself, firstly, because I was experimenting with public spaces and with kids. They were always according to big child in every person, so that my projects to be understood and bring people together. And I was always during my artistic works, I realized that it always brings a lot of kids, and I realized it's super important because kids also bring parents for around, and then it's much easier and much stronger to bring people together, to recreate public spaces together with them. I mostly normally work door by door in backyards or different spaces that need some changes. And with this experience, I always use some. I used to use inflatable objects like oversized toys to bring people together. Instead of having mock-up, for example, and asking people like what benches they would like to have or what they would like to do. First, I wanted in abstract way to meet people, and then to create, to listen to their needs, and then to create places with them. And I realized step by step during years that always starting work with kids is the best. And yeah, this is another example of my work. And I just wanted to show you that before, because it was like long way after I realized that I don't only want to temporarily work in public space, but I would like to recreate places like architects do with the rebuilding of total space. And I decided to create Zuchitecture, which is kind of like architectural studio, but created together with kids. I involve kids in workshops where we create concepts together on particular spaces, and I think this is super important to as they give a very strong impact in the projects, and they see and they show us adult people that they have totally different view for architecture. So I wanted to show you one example of a project to see, so you can see all the process of how to collaborate with kids and involve them in designing process. And this is one of my teams that I worked in Spain, in Matadero, which is a very big cultural center. And I'm sorry, maybe you may hear my dog also here. I hope it doesn't interrupt. So I always start working with kids, preparing technical drawings of buildings that we work in, and I use them. I recreate them a bit, and I prepare them as mock-ups or maps for kids. They have sheets of paper like you see on this picture, and so it's easier for kids to realize the size of the space. We always use them firstly as maps, and we walk around the district so they orientate themselves in the space, and so they get used to those maps. And then we talk a lot about what functions the space would have, and they would like to have. In this particular case, we were designing playground in the space. It's always easier to invent things, imagining, speaking about animals and fairy tales and stuff like that. I always ask them to see what kind of animals they see in the drawing, and I then ask them about functions of this animal they could put in playground. We always make a lot of discussions about that, and I wanted to show you some particular drawings that we have, because I collect these drawings, and I see what kind of animals kids done, and what kind of functions of playground they made. And often there are like very creative ideas, like I don't know, on the upper right side you see that there is a snail which they wanted to use as a swing, so you enter the seashell and you swing out of it. But in this particular project there were a lot of snakes that were like crawling around the space, all the space of Matadero, which you see marked what I selected from the drawings. I always try to use as much functions as possible that are the same or between different kids. And you see up one of the most common drawings, and on the downside you see also the project that we realized with all the functions that kids actually designed. And when we made the object, we are always meeting and discussing if the design is similar to what the kids wanted. They always discuss with me, and very often even they design different animal. Then we select it. They are saying, for example, like that the animal has their eyes, or that they always imagined exactly the same animal, even they drawn a chicken, but it's a snake. So this method, it always serves by for kids, so they understand and they feel involved in the process, and they feel that drawings that they made are really used, and they served for the project, so they feel treated seriously, and they see the playground, that it's always in the space in totally different from totally different perspective, and they feel that it's there. So they are like also behaving different in the space. And here you see like they designed also like that in the snake you can enter the belly of the snake, so you can easily enter the belly of the snake, and you can jump on the head of him and move his eyes and jump on the eyes. So it was all done there. But I wanted to show you also, like in this particular playground that kids designed, even they made the functions that they wanted to have there. We always, when we open spaces like this, we make exhibition when they are also presented as co-authors. Their pictures are there, their works are there, and you can see all the process. So they are inviting all the families, and they are inviting people that are important for them, or also other kids. And you can see also that later on there is not even the same animal, because they are like moving objects, and they are destroying the shape that they at the beginning made, and they are totally doing spontaneous things that nobody can plan even. And the success of places like this is also that it's not only for kids then, but as I told before, if they bring parents also enjoy the space, and it's also the same with their grandparents and other people from that kids bring there. And also with observations, you can see how people can recreate the sense and the usage of places like this. Also, often I'm asked about the safety of spaces designed with kids, but honestly, on this picture, it's not clear. It's a kind of pixelized, but it was made in movement, and I wanted to show you it this way, the picture, because there is one father that is actually jumping on the one of the of parts of the snake, and make the object even more dangerous than the kids actually do, because they intuitively know how to use it to behave safe. And just to show you a few other last pictures of the installation that was one by one disappearing. It was like totally distracted by people, but it was also fine this way, and also kids decided to do it this way. So I think by collaborating with kids, they felt it's their installation and their playground. It was used in different way, and also after the project, they took parts of the playground to their backyards, and they were reusing them in different ways. So I just wanted to show you this example, and I think maybe more questions if you want, maybe you can give them now, or we can speak later about way of designing this way. And I think I will finish my presentation here to give the voice to other speakers.
Stefan and Luka, architects from Serbia, are part of Ada Otvoreno group. They are also Future Architecture Open Call 2020 participants. They are motivated and inspired by children's curiosity. And as they explained me, this curiosity should be the driving force in creative process for the architects as well. Stefan and Luka will now present Ada Otvoreno.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Tanya and Bina, for recognition of our work and for invitation in Urban Talk. This is Luka, I'm Stefan, and we started the group an idea of Ada. Go with presentation. Share. No. Since the theme is children's spaces, we will introduce ourselves and how we got here in a form of short behind-the-scenes storytelling. Everything started when we graduated at Faculty of Architecture at University of Belgrade and went to a long summer camping holiday at Bojana River Island, Ada, at the Adriatic Sea. At the time, we found ourselves in beautiful, untouched seaside scenery, feeling childishly free to create our own place of dwelling. So with us being joyfully naive, it was the place of our first professional, non-professional project. This experience and its repercussions made us find our inner infantile enthusiasm to freely act in space as freshman professionals. Thus, the essence of Ada as an idea, space, social factor, and field of activity inspired playing and creativity, and the camp as a place, besides the characteristic of satisfying the basic settlement needs in a given natural conditions, became a field of action through artistic design and architectural experiment based on what you brought, what you were given, and what you shared among people, friends, or inhabitants. Driven by this idea of Ada, we formed a group of the same name and started Otvoreno concept and ongoing project. And we have also written manifestos. When we returned to our hometown of Čačak, we spent days and nights of wandering, exploring the neglected, mistreated, or unused spaces, public spaces, until we stumbled under the pedestrian bridge called the Bridge of Youth. The abandoned and unused space under this bridge, pedestrian bridge on Zapadna Morava River, created a discontinuity on the riverside area in terms of content and connection with existing sports and recreational facilities on one side, that would be the right of the picture, and pedestrian zones and walking zones on the other side, that's the left of the picture. The lack of organized space for playing, gathering, and dwelling of the children and younger citizens in outdoors was one of the recognized problems and also potentials of the riverside. At that point, driven by our seaside experience and need for urban guerrilla action in public space, we understood that we are going to do what we are going to do and with whom. We started the Open Playground project with an intention to create with children, instead for children, where playground itself was the name of collaborative design process with children, rather than the program or function of particular space. We felt that children's curiosity would correspond our own, and that led us to our first self-initiated workshop. Now we will present our 3 projects we made with children, where we are going to show our working methodology and how the children's spaces we created with them are actually public spaces for anyone and any age, also for plants, animals, and pets, made with children's playful collaboration. These projects are Open Playground, Open Watchtower, and Open in Space of Freedom. Depending on a specific theme and project task, we are going to show how we involve children in design process. Open Playground project was our first so-called pilot project, and where we established phases and specific characteristics of our participation methodology. Since we have no fundings, we started collecting reusable materials that could be part of urban furniture design. While preparing those materials for Open Playground project, simultaneously we were developing our workshop program, defining it through 2 phases. First phase is opening the space based on cognitive research work through learning, drawing, and planning, where participants, children mostly, explore the potential of a particular public space through their own ideas and intervention suggestions using cognitive interactive sheets, maps, and workbooks. So we documented the area of intervention on photos. Then we made these cognitive interactive sheets or maps as a set of 4 individual table maps for each elevation and 1 axonometric group panel map for area around the Bridge of Youth. We started this phase by going to schools and other children's institutions in town, ending up with an event we called Introductory Class, which was held in Cultural Center of Čačak. During this process, we were drawing and planning together with children, and we gathered extraordinary ideas, which helped us in creating elements for assembling out of materials we collected. After finishing preparations of urban furniture elements, we designed a workbook, which in conjunction and with actual tools, building materials, and design elements represented interconnection medium of phase 1 and phase 2. And that would be this book. Children use them to figure out what to do with those elements and being given to them. So before final assembling, we encourage them to draw sketches, fantasize, even make mistakes. Everything being prepared, we organized this workshop as a part of the festival, where we were ending our phase 1 and starting the phase 2. The result of the first phase was over 100 drawing sheets showing children's spaces around the same bridge. This material was also a good database of ideas for potential Bridge of Youth workshops in the future. The second phase is create the place based on collaborative practical actions through construction and applied design, where participants, again mostly children, create a place in a particular space, building on the current context. In 3 days workshop, children and youth, teenagers also, participated in final assembling of the urban furniture elements. Depending on age and task difficulty, we had different levels or stages of participation. We also had help of our friends and colleagues in workshop coordination, since there were a huge amount of children among us. The result of Open Playground project was a new public space, children's space. Instead of dumps, a participatory playground was created, while instead of waste, discarded materials found in local yards, attics, or warehouses became a part of design. Besides its primary function, communication between the banks, the bridge became a canopy for different spatial programs. The playground itself was participative process with children in a form of public space rather than predetermined project given by architects, self-sufficiency or bare rigid city government visions that can mostly be presented in our society. Having this project finished as a part of the festival, we got invitation from people from Valjevo, who were organizers of new festival in mountain ambient of the Divčibare. The festival was held in a pleasant natural environment in an abandoned car camping site. This time the project methodology was slightly different, since they wanted us to propose a designed object or building, but somehow include children and youth in a process. After analyzing the social and environmental context, having discussions with them, and knowing that the children's resort is nearby the location, we proposed a multifunctional watchtower as an observation post. This time the children participated in design process of future camp environment, as they drew and planned the watchtower surroundings. So again, we have this sheet on the left, and below there are their ideas about future surrounding of the watchtower and that newly established car camp site. They were encouraged in making decisions for next festival workshop program. Besides that, we raised construction with professional builders of the workshops, so the children and youth, again, depending on task difficulty, joined us in final finishings or the final look of the watchtower. This phase was followed by this do-it-yourself manual in order to teach children and youth what and how we did this project together. The third project, Open in a Space of Freedom, was done as a part of Call for Ideas competition, named the Space of Freedom, and held by Days of Architecture Sarajevo. Architects and designers were invited to propose a new program for former bob and sledge track at Srebević Mountain, built for 1984 Winter Olympic Games. Since there was no project task in this competition, we felt an obligation to research and invent one. And since the concept of space of freedom is not just in architects' hands, our hands, we emphasized the Olympic motto, it's important to participate, not to win. So we took the real meaning of the games and playing. We made also an axonometric drawing of the track with surrounding area. I went to schools with help of our friends, teachers, let them play in space of freedom through drawing and design. As a result, we proposed a project as a series of spatial plug-in typologies and created new readings and new programs for the bob track. At the end, we went to the location and made a small spatial intervention, updating the track with new program. All these three phases of the project were making a submission as the competition material. With this methodology, we were kind of pioneers in a competition contest, and this work was selected in 7 best projects because of that. An important part of overall Otvoreno methodology we call additional theme. In architectural terms, that is a contextualization of specific project through phases 1 and 2 we mentioned. In terms of working with children, it is an additional education. So it's always architecture plus something else. In case of open playground, it is a microurbanism and a learning logic and of putting elements on logical position in space, in this case under the bridge of youth. But in case of open watchtower, for example, it's an ornithology and learning about domestic birds and that inhabit the local area, since the rooftop of the watchtower contains the bird houses and bird feeders. So additionally, we made these educational cards, learning cards. In case of open in a space of freedom, it's about spatial program typologies and etc. etc. Since we luckily didn't have fundings for open playground project, and even we spent our pocket money for some tools and materials such as quality chain, swing chains, we had to develop the mode of reuse, recycle, remix, and ready-made. This reuse of materials and occasional incorporation of non-architectural materials and elements emphasized creative thinking, recycling importance, and design playfulness in our participative work with children. At the end of this methodology, the last part is presenting of the presented methodology is the swing. Everything began at open playground project again, where after each day as a stimulus and reward, one swing was hung on the bridge construction. Thus, the swings, as the biggest sensation, suddenly became a leitmotif or a symbol of Otvoreno concept, representing a simple, carefree element of playing in the function of celebrating children, youth, and the playing itself, we can say. Experiencing the impact of these swings and how the children feel and react while using them. we decided to carefully incorporate them in our future projects. Thus, the things were included in the ground floor of Open Watchtower, in spatial intervention at Bob and Sledge track, but also they found their place in other projects we have done without children, but as a gift for the children and their spaces. In conclusion, we can say that while associated with grown-ups, children are experiencing process thrill and waiting excitement, which is very good thing, while learning and making things throughout designing, rather than being given a final playing product where each side is being mutually directed by the other one. So we direct them and they in return direct us, and it's everlasting playing and game. We understood that playing is a powerful and meaningful term, which we as an artists, designers or architects share with them. We wanted to encourage children in learning by playing the same way they inspired us in playing by designing. And that would be all of this part. Yes, that's all, I think.
Thank you, Stefan and Luka. Milena Vidosavljević will present the Museum of Science and Technology in Belgrade. As for my knowledge, the museum is the only museum in Serbia and Belgrade that has space exclusively dedicated to children's program and permanent exhibition for children. Milena.
I am Milena from Museum of Science and Technology, and I have to say that I'm very happy to be part of this project. I will share my screen with you now. Okay. The Museum of Science and Technology was founded in 1989. On the location of today's building was the first thermal power plant in Belgrade, also first in Serbia. It was opened in 1893. At first, it was used only for public electric lighting and electric tram. This plant was damaged a lot in First World War, and as the population of Belgrade grew rapidly, it did not have enough capacity for growing needs of residents. Due to that, a new power plant was built on the same location in 1928, which in time it fell out of use. Since 2005, it is the building of the Museum of Science and Technology. Here, where the permanent exhibition is today, there used to be a furnace, and in today's museum depots were steam engines. Such a repurposed space belongs to the strategy of urban regeneration, within which many historical spaces find their modern purpose. There are 3 permanent exhibitions in the Museum of Science and Technology, 2 of which are primarily intended for kids and youth. Those are Science Playroom and Toy Gallery. They are located on the ground floor of the museum, and they occupy a large part of the entry exhibition space. Science Playground was opened 7 years ago. Although, of course, there is no age limit, both spaces are specially designed, functional, and equipped to provide knowledge to kids and young people through entertainment while stimulating their natural curiosity. Sorry. Therefore, we try to add new interactive exhibits and new context, recognizing the needs and desires of our most numerous visitors, and that's kids, of course. At the same time, we aim to fulfill the educational purpose of the museum. This clearly shows that the museum has recognized the need to reach out to its largest population of visitors. In Science Playroom, all exhibits are interactive and designed to stimulate and inspire kids' natural curiosity. The kids really show big enthusiasm and they learn so much. Of course, someone more, someone less. But in general, nobody wants to go home. So we believe that we have managed to offer them a real scientific playground. Everybody's favorite exhibit in the Science Playroom is the inclined room. That's a regular room that is inclined along two axes. When you step into the room, you can't see anything unusual, but due to vertical force of gravitation, our brain receives mixed information. As the result of, you can feel a bit dizzy, which is really great fun for kids, not so much for adults, I think, but it's very important. Kids also can learn something about the concept of gravitation and brain functions. In the museum, kids can also play the X-Ox game in a completely new way. It is designed so that the symbol X and Ox are chosen by putting an empty aluminum can into a file. So the game also promotes the environment protection, mixing the best of both worlds, fun and utility. So you can see that museums strive for our interactive exhibits to be permanently interesting, but also to be a good starting point for the adopting of new knowledge along with good habits. In the toy gallery, we addressing mostly kids, but also entry families. There is a collection of old toys, about 200 exhibits. The oldest are from the end of 19th century and the newest from 80s. There are dolls, cars, teddy bears, mechanical toys, wooden toys, music boxes. Kids find them amusing and adults get sentimental. But among them, there is also a new generation toy. That's Xbox. What makes this modern toy so special? Mostly for our young visitors, it's a combination of sensor and software that detect and imitate a person, his face and movements. When the person stands in front of sensor, the projection of his avatar begins. Then the fun starts as well, because the avatar imitates all the movements. This is the great way for kids to get moving or maybe to start playing some sport they like. It's not forbidden for adults also. A main concept of the museum backyard is to be a place to take a break, but there also a young visitor can have fun. There is Archimedes Seesaw, smart bench with solar cell phone charger, and also floor graphics, which becomes a 3D optical illusion when you take a photo. It's a really great place for making your own digital souvenir. Smart bench. The Museum of Science and Technology, as any other museum, tries to attract attention of the public. We noticed that the number of young visitors grew each year. This is why a big part of our activities are focused on the youngest audience. What children want to experience, not only in the museum, but also in the world around them, is in general, is an adventure. Children's desire for adventure and fun is a natural and unstoppable need, but also a very strong driving force, which, if channeled in the right way, leads to a good outcome and successfully completed task. What we offer to our young audience through those programs is an adventure of the spirit in the service of their education. Now you saw the photos of workshop birthday party in the museum. It's a really funny adventure, but they also can explore the museum through the maps we give them. The goal of the program we offer is, on one hand, to improve the work of the museum and its educational mission, and on the other hand, to create a habit for people to make maximum use of museum potential. Examples of similar projects in the world indicate the serious need for this type of education intended for the kids, which lead to a modernization of museum work, both of the improvement of the activities and to the increased attendance. And that's our winners in this birthday party. And thank you for attention.
Before our next speaker, I just want to explain a little bit that during our preparation, we actually thought of organizing this talk in the Museum of Science and Technology in Belgrade, and they were supposed to be our hosts. So among these things that Milena presented, we were thinking also of organizing a workshop during this urban talk. So we are definitely going to speak about these kind of problems that we are all faced with this COVID pandemic that happened to us, because we were not able to organize the program like we thought that we would. And I must say that we are very sorry that we are not at this moment in the museum with our talk and the workshop. Sorry.
Our guest speaker, Tijana Jovanović-Petrović, Kit Hub co-founder, unfortunately is unable to join us tonight, but I will try to present Kit Hub, hopefully successfully, since I'm collaborating with Kit Hub for some time. Just let's share the screen. So basically, Kit Hub team asked me to join them and help them in design process of Kit Hub place and space. So I started to work with the team on the design concept. But first I needed to understand what Kit Hub is. So I started participating in their program, listening, observing, learning about it. And as you can already guess, it is a slow process. Participatory projects are like that, very slow. You need to be very patient and to be open-minded for all experiences and new unpredictable influences on the way. Kit Hub is actually, as it is said in their programs and projects, learning from experience. So it was natural to approach to space design of space process as they are approaching and doing everything else, systematically and open-minded. Kit Hub is a place for the realization of children's ideas. They accomplish their mission through creation and realization of interdisciplinary educational programs for children aged 7 to 18 that integrate STEM, design, IT, ecology, personal development, and entrepreneurship. They support children's interest and development of skills so they could create the world according to their needs. Kit Hub program is based on the Designathon Works curriculum that focuses on the use of design thinking in education, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and maker education. So more or less, the most of the program workshops, not courses, but workshops are defining, first phase would be defining the problem, the solving of the problem, prototyping or modeling, 3D modeling, and then as a last phase, the presentation of the solutions. This program works in more than 25 countries of the world and is part of the Ashoka network and the Lego Learning Educational Network. And KidHub is a member of this program for Serbia since 2018. Generally speaking, there is no universal laws for good design, but thanks to decades of research regarding the sociological and psychological development of children at universities across the world, there is data to at least suggest a number of key principles. This, you can find more info on KidHub program on website. And now something more to tell about how we imagined working on the concept for design of space. So children have a strong desire to interact with and shape their environments. So the key elements or the key principles that we defined were safety, play, liberation, adaptability, and understanding. These are all photos from KidHub programs, just to mention. So we had a great plan for 2020. We were very enthusiastic and we were really like trying to take some time and to invest a year in this process of design, working with kids mostly, but also with colleagues, educators. But as we all know, the unpredictable thing happened and everything completely changed for us since we had to change our programs. So most of the programs started working online. For the courses, it was easy because we are already dealing with IT and programming. So basically the space suddenly for us wasn't physical one anymore. It was online internet space. So now the question is how to proceed and what are the possible ways how to work with kids in this participatory methodology in the future. Of course that we have some ideas and we already are working, so most of our activities are online with some very strict presentations in physical space if the situation, epidemical situation allows. So this probably as always, the unpredictable things give you the space and place to just start doing things in completely different way. This is the photo taken in Belgrade, and this is one school lesson in Belgrade, and this is outside. So we are more using outside open space, public space in these educational terms. This is another class. So basically, we are also dealing, even if we talk about, is it physical space or online space, it is always about safety, play, liberation, adaptability, and understanding. So this would be short presentation of KidHub activity and what are our ideas how to proceed, and this question of what to do next is basically all around us. And what I find very interesting with the other speakers is that we are all involved somehow in education. And I know Stefan mentioned something that they are working with kids from school. It is not formal like work, but they are communicating and collaborating with schools. I know for sure that Isa is also working not only as educator, but also like she is working with interdisciplinary teams of pupils, children, and later on they can apply the skills they learn during the process for their own projects, and as I understood. And of course, museum is educational institution. So basically, maybe this would be my question as a moderator, how you deal today with this situation, and how do you work into participatory projects in this epidemic crisis? So how does it work for you?
Shall I start or?
Yes.
Okay. So it's actually very, I would say, interesting, but very hard question as well, because first, as you said, all the participatory processes, they are very long term, and sometimes you never know. There are no straight rules on each, because each process can go different way. It all depends on people when you really listen to them, and also on kids and all this stuff. So when the pandemic started, I was already with some projects on that. Some of them, they were in the middle, and some of them were, I don't know, at the beginning, some in different levels. And first, what we thought, okay, let's just wait, and let's just, because it's impossible to do projects, participatory projects like those based on relations between people, and like to meet people in real and to gather and integrate people. We thought it's impossible to just to do something different. But then, as we are still in the same difficulties, especially that I not only work locally, but also work in different countries. So we never know what is going to happen with the pandemia, like blockades and all the stuff. We decided that we try to change format a bit for making that online. And the project that I showed you, we actually also once we already tried to do it online with kids drawing on maps, and I was just recording the space, so I made the virtual walk, and I think it worked more or less. But it was I think it worked well. We made it in Poland in Polish. But if we are in different country, I always try to work only in countries where I know the language. In Spain, I knew Spanish, because I think it's very important to have this one-on-one contact. If it's in different places, it's very difficult, because you don't have this, when you work with kids, co-creating is just it's like speaking with a friend with jokes, that somebody make joke and you make the response, and then you go with something different. And if there is somebody translating and in the internet and there are interruptions and stuff, it's really complicated. I'm always concentrated on these little details, when I speak. So I don't know if it's answering your question, but different thing is also that we are trying to make avatars. There are like that we just put on one person we put computer or tablet, and the others can also observe the space. But this is something that we do because we have to push the projects, like to do them further and to develop them. but I don't really think there is proper solution for not have like something instead of working on relations, because this is the clue of this project.
Thank you, Isa. And can you explain us more about this educational side of your projects and activities?
Yeah, I always try, I collaborate a lot with different institutions, like with NGOs and with government and stuff like that. And I always try to link many people. So we also created a school called School of Knocking on Doors, because in every project where I don't believe that project belongs only to one person, like one author. So and it's very important that if I go to some space as an artist, to just show people some ways of working, but then also to when I'm gone, so they know more or less how to continue the project, you know, so they feel and they understand how could it be changed. That's why always when we start with School of Knocking on Doors, and we with the students, but this is not with kids as you mentioned. This is we involve students of architecture, design, and from universities, which are all there, that collaborate also with kids there. We involve them in also knock. They just do step by step as everybody do. They knock the doors of everybody in the apartments, and they start inviting them for projects. They start asking them for doing stuff, and they are always from local university and local district, because I say that because of, you know, like how to move your projects if you work in different places, you know. So, and then we develop everything all together. The project that I showed you, it was also with participation of Spanish students. So they were also later on observing the process. So they are taking part in all the process as observers, but also as participants in a way. And after I go, and the project from my side it's over, let's say, they continue to work on the process, because from my perspective it's this is a bit different, I think, maybe than architectonical, that it's not only about rebuilding some space, but also about this mental change in people. And so there is not only space to use, but also people that gather around the space. That's why we do it this way. And each place, it's a different group of students, but then they are also linking with each other. So it's like, let's say, like a social movement that appear from this project, because they are linking and changing experiences with themselves as well.
Okay, thank you. And Stefan and Luca, what do you think? Is it important to talk to children in schools about architecture and urbanism, and how does it reflect their future?
Well, yeah, I think it's important more to talk with them about space, and then of course it has repercussions on architecture and urbanism, but to somehow involve them in space, and being aware of the space and what they can do with the space, just by playing, as we mentioned, because to find that their way of learning by playing. So that way they can then understand what we really do. I mean, to somehow encourage them to look beyond the walls and just buildings as buildings. it's interesting, like in even if you go after the school on the first year of faculty, you learn you have a one subject that's shape and space, and you are there somehow experiencing something different than you thought before. It's all architecture is all about, so it's more to encourage them to reshape the space and to connect that with actual then architecture and urbanism and things, and to be involved as participants, where they can be in a way, like these workshops or some things, but also in stages, for example, to include them somehow in some kind of a stage, if it's especially if something about them, like their spaces and spaces for them, but also as we have seen that spaces are not necessarily children's spaces just for children. They are spaces for everybody, every creature, species. So they're just that driving force.
Because where children are, parents are also.
Yes, because it's good to save that child in you somehow in everything you do, and then to interconnect with them, because they know they're innocent, they know exactly the true meaning of things. Okay.
I will first ask our speakers, do they have some questions for each other, and then we have some colleagues and friends and people in audience that want to join the discussion. So do we maybe have some question for each other? Okay, Isa.
I actually have question for guys because maybe my dog also has some questions. But because you mentioned that mostly when you are doing these projects, you are doing them by your own resources, and that they are not legalized, let's say, or not legalized. I don't know, that they are not in the main route of architectural activities in your the spaces of your work, right? So do you see the potential? Do you understand? So do you see the potential of this kind of way of designing to be in the main field? And so you can, if you take part in architectural competitions, to win competitions to design this way, because this is always the problem that I actually have.
Well, the first project, and maybe the third, but the third one we mentioned is it's multi-layered. The first one was by our means and with things we collected. But the second one was already founded because Open Watchtower was built. The construction, as we said, and all the things were built by professionals, and we have funding. So it was like more a professional project than the first one. And bigger one, so the children couldn't participate in every stage of the construction, but yes, as a final stages of painting and doing something, planting a vertical garden or some things like that, they could participate in a way of participation. And in a way of design, well, we don't see it is it's the only way, because we would like to do more, for example, those kinds of projects more professionally, and I think more like architecture, with good I don't know, means and fundings and all that. But that's our thrive, and that's why we started this, because we felt an urge to do that, and that was the only way then. And with these projects, we wanted to show that we wanted to do this, and that we are open to collaborate with more with some maybe institutions or some serious, I would say, maybe investors who would put and that in that way we can put all of these things in a bigger level, I think, more as a design, but also there would be always room for children to participate. It's just about quality, I think. Well, we saw your presentation, and that's the way it could be seen that everything is done professionally, and all the objects and everything is just perfect. So, but it's not done in one house or by somebody's mother, you know. But all the things for children is the same. It's the same in a moment of process. They equally participate. But maybe I now went too long about explanations, but
Actually, if I can still ask deeper the question, because what I meant is like the project that I presented, it was in Spain, which is like super open for participatory designing. And in Poland, we always cause these problems. Like when I saw your presentation in Poland, if I work on process like this, like you presented, or like other architects that work in participatory way, they always cause the same problem, that some part of the process, like there is not participatory process design in government restrictions, you know. So if you do this projects like this, you do it bottom up, and there are always parts of project that you have to work with your own resources, or you work, you know, it's not it's never that if you take part in architectonical competitions, projects like yours or like mine, they wouldn't be possible, because nobody actually take part for this participatory moment for in competition. In competition, you have to give the concept. If you understand what I mean.
Yes. For example, this competition itself is just called Space of Freedom, and it had no concept, no project task. In fact, there was just a call for ideas for its Space of Freedom. So we were like, what's Space of Freedom?
Mm.
So it's more like giving the project task and include children in because that we shaped the theme that way. But it was called for ideas competition, and it was just like that. It wasn't something strict with the task, with the functions, with all law things, and but those are serious competitions. This was more like for young people, and something more as a part of a Days of Architecture program, and more loose itself. So it was more loose, and then we somehow try to do exactly in that way. We didn't want to sit and just do something by our own and let's just send it. So it was more like, let's play for that. And now
it seems to me that all of these kind of projects are part of some kind of festivals or programs within Matadero, which is a kind of cultural center, very diverse cultural center with probably some funds that can make these things possible. But what I feel is really a problem is that this kind of participatory programs should be something, if we are talking about the architecture, should be something before the program task. So maybe we can, the idea could be to lobby for kind of participatory workshops that will be before the open competitions for, let's say, children's spaces, for schools, or for urban spaces, or something like that. So this is a kind of pre-architectural work to include children, children as users of the space, but also other participants of the process itself. So I feel that all of your work, if we are talking about the architecture and the thinking of space, like these kind of workshops should be something that is pre-architectural work, like how to use the space, or how we feel about the space on one hand side. And then on the other hand side, I feel that these kind of workshops are also very not only educational, but educational in on the different levels. But what is your experience with children? How do they treat the space after participating in working on it, designing it, or even making it with the proper material?
Actually, I feel this is the most important how kids react, because I think when you involve them in some process and you tell them, okay, now we are going to have this workshop, but the results of workshop are going to be possibly made real. They are getting involved much more likely. But also when they are like, they give all their heart and energy to give some tips for the playground and stuff. But also then when they see that it's really made, they I think it's not only from the perspective of how they use the object, because for sure they use it as it's made by themselves. They are super proud and stuff like that. But I think the most important is just for psychology of child also, that they feel they have power to do things and to make things real also. So I think it's better for the future of them. In general, in how they take part in democracy then, you know, and how they feel citizens of the space, and how they feel treated seriously. I think this is about this is the effect for later years also for them.
And we would say that also that Danica mentioned that totally agreed with the constatation that it's a pre-architectural thing, because it's somehow that's the questioning of that space, and it's a good database. All those, for example, whether it's drawings itself on the sheets, cognitive, or just actions in actual space, they are good because they show us directly what they want with that space and how they imagine it. So it's a good database that could be in a competition program in all those PDF formats where we have all the things. We should somehow include all that as a good material for something that could be on some competition or on some future building. Exact building or designing between architects, but as a good starting point. And the other thing, yeah, they felt really excited by being involved in workshop programs, and also they, as we always put some spaces for also for plants or some animals or pets besides the people. You could see them days after that just going on that place and watering those plants, but because they were plants that were plants that planted by them, and also the parents even asked where they can where is the school for the parks. We've done on that workshops. They wanted to put them in those schools. And that would be thing. And also the swings. The swings are good symbol and something that we use, and there can be no mistake with a swing. I mean, when it's about children. Even for us.
I always feel good.
To maybe just to say that also from being experience with participation, it is really very interesting how we always imagined working in one way with kids, and then we learn so much from this interactive process. What I find very important is that somehow conversation is not just talking to somebody, but it is mainly listening. And somehow me personally learn how to listen to the others and true needs. And when something meaningful is defined as a problem or solution, then it is really very easy to build it and produce it and design it. So these are some kind of, for me personally, as being a member and participant of a couple of participatory projects, very important to learn and to apply further.
Okay, so thank you. And now I would like also to invite people that we invited also to take part into these discussions. They are our friends and colleagues who actually participated before in some of our BINA programs, BINA projects. We have Jelena Joksimovic from the Center of Promotion of Science, Biljana Brankovic from Archiplay. Maybe Jelena to invite to join us for the moment and tell us more about their experience, what they do with children in their scientific club of the Center Scientific Club.
Thank you, Danica. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this talk. As Danica already said, I'm part of Center for the Promotion of Science, which is public institution engaged in developing scientific literacy among all age groups. But as my profession is psychology of education, specifically psychology of education for children, then I'm involved mostly in the activities regarding this part. So I'm developing programs for children and also working with young science communicators who are then implementing our workshops and other activities with children. So I really enjoyed all the talks we heard tonight, especially Isa's and the talk from guys from ADA. I think those were all the stories about public pedagogy. So the pedagogy that is happening in the public space and that is changing our, let's say, view about public space. That part of your activities, for example, is us to start with provocation, with strong visual provocation, and then that to use that as an invitation for children and parents, for everyone to get involved, I think is very important and also something that we are using in our work. For example, we work on children's science camps. Those camps last for 5 days or so, and during those camps, children gather in group and develop own scientific exhibition. So this, we always use a topic, sometimes it's water, sometimes it's evolution, sometimes it is air or movement. So we, with different age groups, with children from different towns in Serbia, we decide upon this topic, what is relevant for them. And in one, I wanted to tell a story about one case that we did in Kikinda. It is a small town south from Belgrade, struggling with water provision. Actually, in this town, the water, public water is not very clean. So they have a lot of problems with under earth sources of pollution, and the water that they use for drinking and cooking must be bought or provided somewhere else. So with children there, we worked on this topic of water, who is living where in water, what they are doing, and so. And one group of children, they developed they developed like a scientific installation or a science communication installation. I wouldn't be sure what is the term, from the one hallway. So I think this is a very good example how children used space to present one scientific concept or to describe or explain what is what they know about deep sea. So you enter this hallway. It was very dark, and we used ultraviolet light to exemplify, to point out what their drawings. Their drawings were about who lives where in the water. So entering the hallway is like a very surface of the sea, and there you can see only some fish that swim there. Then when you go deeper in the hallway, you go deeper in the sea, and then you meet other life forms, and you meet other creatures, and you go to that depth where only a few people ever were on the planet, or where less people than went to moon have been. So for children, this installation, of course, they were painting with this neon colors. So it is, you can imagine how interesting. Then you turn on and when you turn on the ultraviolet light, it all shines, and it's very, it seems really like a playground, and you use this word very often, playfulness. So it was very playful. We were in the building of this regional center for professional development. So it's also a public institution, and they recreated, I don't believe this kind of institution ever saw something like that. So they recreated this space in a way to describe a concept of who lives where in the water. So in this example, I also saw the linkages between what Tiana was talking about in Kid Hub, which we also collaborated with. They invited some of us last year to their talk about children participation and I think development of design thinking. And design thinking is there. For me, at least, keyword to describe how we prepare children, or how we learn with them to deal with any situation in public space, or how we deal with them to these competences like design thinking are way broader than any, I don't know, school subject can be, or any learning experience specifically about some topic can be. So if we teach about design, and if we design together with children, then I'm guessing that in any other situation in their private spaces, they will be more prepared to recreate something, to say, okay, this cup maybe is a cup, but I can use it also as a hat for my doll or something like that. So this opening of the mindset, I think, is the key result. And I think Danica, or maybe Tatiana asked, do you see the change in children mindsets? And then you said how they take care about the spaces they worked with together with you. I think this change is long lasting. It is very it cannot be seen immediately, but those experiences will also never be forgotten and will create the change later on. In Center for the Promotion of Science, we developed a maker space, so like a workshop or a space for anyone, since it is a public institution space. This space is used by adults, by students, by families with children. They all come there and develop their own projects there, or get inspired, or connect, and then create some projects that are already, or including some projects that are already going on. So in this in this space, in Makerspace, we use old school materials, old school like I don't know, the drills and the hammer and everything, but also 3D printers and everything. So when they come there, the level of possibilities what they can make is like enormous, and you can see this. How this interest raises as soon as they see what can be made with something. And speaking of architecture, a lot of students from architecture, Faculty of Architecture, come there to also work on their I don't know the word in the models, yeah, models for their classes and something like that. And that is something, because I lead those walks through the makerspace when some schools visit. Those are the most interesting things that we have in Makerspace for children. They always ask, what is this model about? So what is this house, or how it is built and everything like that. So I think there is a natural interest among children about space and about creating in this space. But what we do with that is a matter of I believe what we can call public pedagogy, and I think very important is who we work with in that along the way. I think Isa also said there is no project that is alone or that is mine, or it is always collaborative work. It is always something that we joint work together on, and we co-produce. And in this regard, somebody will have the expertise in working with children, somebody will have the expertise in design, somebody will have the expertise in public space, and only in this joint effort, I think this new values can be created. I think me personally don't know Milena, but our institutions collaborate very closely. So Museum of Science and Technology and Center for the Promotion of Science naturally collaborate. And I think it is very important because all of your other initiatives that you mentioned are not independent initiatives. We come from these government institutions, and the situation is a bit different there. So okay, I will not start with bureaucracy and everything that is struggling us, but we do have this obligation to work for public good, to be dedicated to this public good. And I think the people perceive us in that way, and the level of freedom is less. The space for mistakes are less. So for us, I think it's very important to be able to collaborate with this kind of initiatives, and then to get a bit more free, to get more freedom to sparkle this curiosity. I also wrote excitement and playfulness as keywords from your presentations. Sorry if I was too long, but I was really inspired.
Thank you, Jelena. And now I would like to invite Biljana Brankovic also, if she's with us, to join. Biljana is a professor also, but she's also a member of Archiplay initiative and group that works with young people for a number of years.
Thank you, Danica, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Biljana Brankovic, and Danica said I'm part of the team with my husband who have worked with children for 15 years now, and youth also on different levels. And Bina was our starting point in a way that through their workshops, which we created for kids, we got to know the way children think, the way they create, and the potential they have for the design. So the aim of these workshops was not to create future architects or to invite them to deal with architecture as a profession. But actually what we did throughout these 10 years of collaboration was to sparkle the interest in the built environment with kids, and to build their responsibility for the built environment and natural environment as future citizens. So, so the future of Serbian cities could be a bit better than the present. So we did a lot of collaborations also with institutions and museums, and we learned a lot. And I would specifically accent two things. One is that children are really a great resource for design. They can, as we saw in previous presentations, generate some unexpected concepts that maybe we as professional architects and designers wouldn't think of. So in collaboration with kids, this palette of ideas broadens and gets much richer, and we get a resource for design as a participatory project. The second thing we learned is that children really need and like to engage in some abstract thinking activities, and this is something we realized is missing in their formal education, and even in the process of bringing up. Somehow this is the weak point of the childhood, as if I may say. And once you give them tools, once you give them good questions and start interaction, they really react well. And abstract thinking was the basis of the development of our initiative and the line of architectural toys. We call them Archi-Play because we developed different tools for workshops in Bina that children were very interested in, and parents also wanted to have them at home. So we realized there's a potential for developing many tools as architectural toys that will help children to develop this abstract thinking that they will use throughout the life, whatever profession they choose. So these are two things that I would like to extract from our experience. And for 10 years, we ran our own NGO that dealt with the architectural education of children. And this private company, Archi-Play, somehow has grown up from our NGO. And this is one way of the direction we developed. And the second one was incorporated in my teaching at the Faculty of Applied Arts. I teach urban design, and I always try to incorporate participatory approach into our student assignments. And I would like just to mention one project that lasts for 3 years now. As Tatiana said, the participatory projects are slow and heavy work, especially when it comes to financing. But somehow we managed to bring together teachers, students, pupils of one primary school in Belgrade, together with students of applied arts in joint workshops where we try to realize what's the best way to reconstruct their schoolyard so they can have a better environment for both for teachers and kids. We developed many designs and proposals, then went through a process of evaluation where children gave us their opinions and suggestions, also teachers and parents. And we selected several designs that partially actually were built because we managed as a joint venture, joint hard work from parents that also were enthusiastic about this. We did some fundraising and gathered, collected money. So we actually built some part of the new schoolyard, and this is an ongoing project. I hope it continues, but this is the other way of applying the knowledge we have collected through work with children. Now I try to employ children's resources into the actual design process and educational process. I try to mix students of faculty with primary school students so they can learn from each other, try to navigate through this process as a mentor and teacher. So for one side, this strengthens children and gives them power. As Isa said, they like to feel they have impact and they are heard of, listened to. And on the other hand, for me as a teacher, it's really important to introduce the participatory approach to my students so they don't think on this subjective individual artistic level and think of the ways of designing as they personally just like it, but to think objectively in terms of real needs of real users of space, and to ask them, to work with them, to really try to realize what the problems and potential of space are, and to give reasonable solutions for it.
Thank you, Biljana. What we experienced in the long collaboration with your organization is really that you are very much dedicated to the work you do, and we had several workshops with the really outcome, and now we are also I'm passing by the school that you're on, so it's really very long process, but I think it's really valuable, but it's also it is something that is still very experimental.
Yes,
and it's a very big enthusiasm from your side, and also I guess from the people from school, etc., etc. And the same thing was working with these bus stops in suburb of Ledine, that it was really very difficult for all of us to start the project, to this participation part with the local community, and then to go on with the real production of the space. So I guess this is something that we as architects, we as institutions, organizations, festivals, etc., we have to really work hard on it. So
yeah.
Any comments on what we heard from Jelena and Biljana? Or is there any other questions from the people from the audience that you can put on the chat, or to ask? And you guys, Isa, Ada, Tanya.
Maybe I have one question or doubt from what I heard. I understand everything, and it's super inspiring. Also, from to listen from the others that we do similar things. But my biggest doubt is always with the thing that I told you at the beginning about the process, because I truly believe if you co-create with people, the person that starts the project, even if you start as animator, educator, or stuff like this, or you need to have architect at the beginning of the process with you, or you design by yourself the final things if you want to do the architecture out of it, because I think it's really big mistake if things like we do are treated as how to say like input to architects, and then architects are coming and they are making their own design. Because for me, from my perspective, it totally hasn't got any sense, because there is no it's like then it's like no co-creation. And there were many projects like this in Poland that I know, that the people involvement was just like put down because some architect designed that by himself in different way than people design. So if you start process with an educative way like this, and you start involving big group of people, you cannot then just bring in the middle of the process architect that will do his own stuff, even according to what people said, you know, like just taking that as information. I'm very with all the experience for 15 years that I have, I truly think that it should be the process should be treated as one piece, not split it in pieces like educational and sociological and then architectural. For me, this is like all the process that should be treated as one.
Should be treated as a whole. So from the very beginning, working as a team.
Basically, GitHub is working like that, so already implementing this idea of teamwork that is essential. And kids are usually, for the workshop, this Designathon workshops, it is always teamwork. So the groups from 3 to 5 kids in a group, one mentor per group. So it is also collaborative, so it is multidisciplinary. And also, like, not only if we are talking about kids and teams, but also like the educator teams and moderators, it is also multidisciplinary in teamwork. So I think that is essential and crucial to involve.
Have you started working because you were invited also to design or to help designing the space for the GitHub? Because as far as I know, GitHub doesn't have its space at the moment. So have you started working with children on this kind of design of the space itself, not just on other projects, but
We started, but very soon with our start, we will plan a very interesting year for, of course, this also included one course and program of design program, but also a lot of workshop and interactive work with kids, so we can learn what are their true needs and expectations from this. I mean, of course, that in first moment it was like we are imagining this space and we are really very happy, and then all of a sudden we realize that we really need to involve kids in this process, because without them it really doesn't make sense. But it is also because I have a very interesting experience, because I worked, and you just actually, I remembered that I worked for more than a year with IT company that recognized also importance of participatory projects. So they called me to be consultant for design of their space, because they wanted, the management wanted to talk and to hear their employees, so workers, so to make this connection stronger. So some managers do realize how important it is, and the space is basically bonding or not bonding them as a team. And it was quite an adventure for me, and we were quite successful. But as I already mentioned, it is very slow process, and the most important thing is to engage people in it, because without it, you don't have any results.
Okay, thank you all. If there is no other questions, I would like just to thank you for participating and being with us. And it seems that we are all in a very special situation right now. So we have to somehow continue with our work, with our visions, and to hope this situation will in a way end, or will find the way how to communicate and work personally in other ways. So all of your experience in a way regarding the space and making of the spaces for children uh, needs to be done in personal contact or in proper, not virtual space. So for the time being, we are just thinking of the future spaces and our future plans and programs and projects to be developed. And I hope that we'll manage and that we'll have a chance to meet in person, and that you, Isa, will come for some occasion to Belgrade and maybe work with us and with our colleagues from ADA and from the Center of for the Promotion of Science and with Biljana. I'm sorry that our friends from Minsk, from Architectural Thinking School, didn't participate, because they are really doing a great thing. They're doing a really, really great job, but at this moment they are in a kind of very difficult situation in Minsk. So I guess that maybe that's the reason why they didn't participate this time. So we're our best wishes for them, because in spite of the situation in their country, they're still continuing to work with children. And I hope that they'll have a chance to do it so. So we are thanking our host, Božidarac Online, and we are inviting you to be with us during the next Urban Talk, which will be organized on the 6th of October at 6 o'clock. And then we will be talking about entrepreneurship in the field of architecture, circular economy, and many other interesting questions. So please stay with us and follow us on our social medias. Bye.
I just want to add something for the end, because we didn't mention that actually museum, after months of not working with kids, they opened the space, gallery space for kids. So we are all more than welcome to visit.
Yes, I have to say that I'm very happy, because from yesterday, museum opened again science playroom and the toy gallery. So today it was full of visitors, and young visitors especially.
So
These are
see
great
you,
news.
Elena, in the museum.
You're welcome, everyone. I will be very happy.
Okay, thank you.
Also, on behalf of the Future Architecture Platform, I would like to thank Creative Europe program that made this program possible. So see you soon then.